Hello and welcome to my screencast on basic web design. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be exploring some of the fundamental concepts of organizing your website and using HTML paths to navigate within a structured hierarchy. Now, the basic problem in web design for beginners is to be able to go from one place to the other within the website. Simple websites are consisting of just a few pages are easy to navigate because there's just a very limited amount of things to link to. Problem with web design is that once you get going, the number of files increases exponentially. And soon thereafter, if you don't start on the right foot, your website becomes a mess. There's files everywhere, pictures everywhere, CSS and HTML and JavaScript files. And once you get past that threshold and your website is a mess, it starts becoming a chore to try and find things, to know where to link to. It basically gets really messy. So for my students, what I try to emphasize right off the bat is to keep things tidy. In other words, keep your pictures all together inside a pictures folder. Your CSS goes in a CSS folder. You could put your HTML files in a pages folder, for example. So as we start exploring web design, it's important to start things on the right foot, develop a methodology that will help you in the long run, and simply go from there. Now, as you can see over here, I have a sample HTML file, and this file is supposed to be the home page. So I have saved this file inside the root folder, and that's going to be our first concept for the day. So if we go over onto my desktop, and on my desktop I saved I created a folder rather, which I called root folder. Now in web design, the root folder is an extremely important concept. The root folder is the folder that contains the website. So every file that will be online has to be inside this folder. Now, one thing that confuses a lot of students is, where do I put the root folder? The root folder itself, at least on the machine where you are creating the website, can be basically anywhere. If you take a look at the location that I've got here, I put the root folder on my desktop, which is inside my Eric home folder. And Eric is one of many users on this machine. That is inside the Macintosh hard drive, and my computer is called Eric's MacBook Pro. So you can see that the root folder is kind of deeply nested inside the computer's hard drive. And that's perfectly fine. You can put the root folder wherever you like, as long as you keep all the files in one central location. It's going to be different when we upload all these files to the server. On the server, it goes in a very specific place. But on your development machine, as long as all the files are together, that's perfectly okay. So taking a look at what I created inside the root folder, you see that I'm starting to create a hierarchy of folders to keep my website nice and clean. So I've got my CSS folder here, which right now is empty. I've got an images folder where I've got 3 pictures. Right now I've got 3 JPEGs, and they are of 3 very famous lakes. So there's Lake Como, there's Lake Moraine, and there's Lake Tahoe. Now I'm going to be organizing this later because I want to organize, let's say, the pictures that come from North America in one place and the one from Europe in another place. Imagine that I was going to have a website with lots of pictures from many different locations. I want to tidy it up and make it make sense. I've got my home page over here, which is index.html. And remember that index is a special word for the web server. It is the default page. So always, always, always at that first level of your root folder, you need a file called index.html. And then down here, I will have a pages folder where I will put my other pages later. Now, the word itself, pages, is not important. What's important is that you start organizing things that belong together. the actual word that you're going to be using for the folder does become important in the context of search engine optimization. So later, as you develop a website, you might want to put pages that belong together by content in a folder with an appropriate name. So let's say if you had pages about cars, you might call the folder cars, and then you'd have another section called, I don't know, let's say race cars as opposed to passenger cars. And you would have two different folders, one for, let's say, passenger cars and the other one for race cars. So the folder itself, the name that you give to it becomes important. Right now at this stage, we're just going to keep it simple, keep all the HTML together, and we'll just call it pages. So going back to our HTML file, what we want to do is we want to, on our home page, say, welcome to everyone. Okay, this is our website. And then we're going to be linking from, let's say, the home page to a second page. And then we're going to create a third page as well. And because we want to organize everything, we will have to jump from home page into images to go pick up our pictures, from the home page to a second page, so going into the pages folder, and obviously on that page 2 that's going to be inside pages, you're still going to have to come out and go into images to put a picture in it. So all of that is how you write paths. And the paths is sometimes one of the trickier things to understand in HTML. The good news is that once you get it, it's always the same. It's forever in web design. Writing your paths, you learn it once and you apply it many, many times. So back to my HTML document, notice that the doc type is very, very short and sweet. That means it's HTML5. The HTML tag starts and closes at the end of the document. I've got my head area right now, which only has the title element, so understanding HTML paths. My body has a title, so understanding HTML paths once again, and a subtitle, using folders to organize your website. So taking a look at what I've got back here, I'm going to want to create a link so that I can have a picture on my home page. Now, taking a look at where I am, I've got to go from index into images, and then inside images, I have to pick up one of these pictures here. So I am going to use an image tag, img for image, source, src, so telling where that source file is. And I've got to tell it when I take a look over here, okay, leaving index.html, I have to go into images and then find an image. So I have to literally tell it, okay, go into the images folder and then find, let's say, Lake Moraine. And the image tag is a self-closing tag, so I have to put the closing slash at the end of the tag itself. But the syntax is very, very straightforward. You have a folder slash file. So if I put a comment over here, syntax is quotation mark, folder name, slash file name, like that. Now, you may not always have a folder, okay, but when there is a folder, you separate the folder name from the file name with a slash. And you could have, several folders as well. So you could have a folder name and, let's say, a subfolder and even another subfolder. Doesn't matter. The syntax itself supports as many folders and subfolders as you could possibly need. So creating the organization inside your website is your own. As long as it makes sense to you and it's easy for you to understand and navigate and remember where things are, anything that you put together is okay as long as it's nice and clear. So I've got this over here. Let me save that file. I'll jump over to Firefox and I'll refresh the page. So one thing that's useful, especially when you're working on your machine at home, is you can take a look at the file location up here inside the URL bar, and you can see that I'm in the users folder. There's the Eric folder. I'm on the desktop. I've got a folder called root folder over here, and I am on index.html. Taking a look at the source code that Firefox is looking at, or reading rather, I can come in and take a look at the source code. Easiest way to do it is just to right click on the page, view page source, and you can see that the HTML that Firefox is reading is exactly the same one as what I just wrote, but this is inside the browser's memory. Now I can click, at least I can do this in Firefox. It's not every browser that supports clicking in the source code. But if I go over here, it actually shows me the picture. So we know that it's actually working perfectly okay. Now going back over here, you can see that I've only got 3 pictures, and it's very simple to navigate, but I do not have a structure that's going to make it easy for me to figure out, okay, this is in North America and that over there is in Europe. So if I jump into my images folder and I create a new folder here, I can say, okay, I'm going to have a folder for Europe, and I'm going to have another folder for North America. Now, one little tip, when you are using multiple words in a file or folder name, separate the words with a hyphen, which is a dash, and keep everything in lowercase. There's absolutely no reason to start putting in capitals here, especially when you link, or let's say upload your files to a case-sensitive server such as Unix or Linux. The capitals will give you a hard time. So the tip of the day for web design students, avoid capitalization at all costs and no spaces in your file names. This doesn't mean that you can't have capitals inside the text. So inside an H1 or an H2, inside a paragraph, you can put the spaces and the capitals there. But just in the file names, avoid that completely. So I've created my 2 folders, and Lake Como is the only one that I've got in Europe. Moraine Lake, which is in Alberta, Canada, goes in North America. Lake Tahoe, obviously in the United States, goes over there. So I have changed the link over here, and I've got to reflect that inside my my HTML. Now if I go back to Firefox and I refresh, I did change the location of my picture, so when I refresh, picture disappears. Taking a look at the HTML hasn't changed, but if I click the link, okay, file not found. And you can see in this warning or error message over here, cannot find the file at desktop root folder images moraine.jpg. Remember that right here in between images and Moraine, I need to put the new name of the folder. Moraine's in North America, so I'd have to tell it over there. Coming back over here in the actual application where I'm writing my HTML, I have to go images/North America JPEG. Now for those of you who are not sure how to do that, the best way to figure it out when you're starting from scratch and this has not become second nature to you is highlight your index file, okay, or at least the file that you're working on. So you've got index.html over here. That is the file that's in the browser window. How do you go to find your picture? So if you have to go into images, you will select that and you'll double click it. So you'll go into images. Once you double click, think of writing that inside your HTML. So let's say if we start from scratch over here, okay, I don't know where it is. I go to my folder, Okay, I'm on index. I need to go into images, double click that. Okay, so images goes here because I had to double click it. And then I don't find my picture yet. I have to go into North America. Double click that. Come over here, North America. Add a slash. And then I go, oh, there's Moraine. I don't need to double click it. It'll open up in Photoshop. But if I select it by clicking once, that's the picture that I want to load. So following the syntax, I've got my folder name or several folder names / file name. It is moraine.jpg. If I save that and I go back to my Firefox browser and refresh, okay, there's my picture again. So when you are going deeper inside the hierarchy and you're going into, let's say, the root folder deeper and deeper, that syntax folder name / file name, okay, you can go as deep as you need, okay, to keep it nice and tidy and organized, but that's the way that the syntax works. Now, if I do something different, okay, now my HTML file is at the root level. It's in the root folder. It's, at the top. If I create a new file, and this time I'm going to go stick it deeper inside the root hierarchy, I need to find a way to back out of a folder. So not just going in, but I need to be able to go backwards and go back towards root. So I've created myself a little template file here so that I don't have to retype absolutely everything. I'll just remove this for now. We'll get back to that later. So this is going to be my second page. So an HTML file inside a folder. So the difference here is that when we take a look at our root folder, I've got my home page, which is at the main level, and I'm going to be putting my second page inside pages. So this one's at the top, the other one will be one folder deeper. I'm just going to save this, go save as, come into my root folder, which is on my desktop, and I'll go inside pages. So this will be page 2. .html, once again saved as Unicode, that's fine, save that, and you can see that it appeared automatically back here on my desktop. Now, as simple as it is to link to a picture, I now have a slightly more complex job. Let's do what we did before. We are inside the Pages folder. So this is the file that's going to be in my browser. So obviously from here, it's by itself inside Pages. I need to get out of the Pages folder and go up to root over here and then be able to go inside the Images folder and, let's say, find Lake Como. Now that's the problem. Okay, I have to go backwards. I'm in Pages. Pages doesn't have any direction or any folder. There's nothing here. There's just one file. So I have to go backwards. So from here to there, back to root. In HTML, that's how you, or the way that you write going backwards is ... or 2 periods in a row, /, and that means leave the folder that you're in, going back towards root. So back over here, we go back to root. Then you start navigating like we did before. So we'll go into the Images folder. So double click. So back one, Images folder, / and let's say Europe, and then Lake-Como. So let's put a little comment in there again to help ourselves remember what all of this. Comments are good because you can go back and reread them later, and you just leave yourself notes inside your code so that you don't have to separate your note taking from your actual coding. So let's call it ... slash. Okay, so ... slash means back up one level. Now the concept is as flexible as we had it when we were talking about folders and subfolders and files. You can have several nested subfolders, but you can back up as many times as you need using ... slash. The syntax will let you say ... slash, ... slash, for example, if you had 3 nested folders that you wanted to get out of. Now in our case, I only need 1. So if I go to my page 2 back here, and I open this up in Mozilla Firefox, you can see that I've got more than a few different browsers enabled. You can see there that my second page is working perfectly okay. So I've got my first page, and I've got my second page. So if I come back over here and I want to, let's say, make my my first page link to my second and my second back to my first, I've only placed an image right now, but I can actually use an anchor tag, the HTML anchor tag, or A, to be able to click on that picture so that I can go to my second page. So A for anchor, href for hypertext reference, equals, and now same problem as before. What is my path going to be? I am on index. It says so over here. So let's go back to the root folder and take a look. Okay, leaving index, how do I get to my second page? I have to go into pages. So double click that. So every time you double click, okay, write that down. Pages, slash, and right there and then at that level is page 2. So I will say page2.html. So my anchor starts here. This is the href attribute, and this is the value of the attribute. So the anchor starts here. I don't have text, I have a picture, so it is a clickable picture, but I have to close my anchor. Remember that everything that you open in HTML has to be closed. So href, clickable picture over here, and then my anchor tag down there. That is my index. I can go back to Firefox and refresh. And now you can see that when I move my cursor on top of the picture, it is now clickable, and I click the mouse and I jump to my page 2, which is inside pages. Now when you're having a hard time and it's not working, take a look at the address up here. For example, a common problem would be that it would say root folder /pages /pages /page2.html. That happens a lot to beginners because they are not backing out of pages, but the path says to find a pages folder. So the browser is trying to find pages folder inside the pages folder, which is obviously not right. So let's do this again. We'll do it on the second page, on page 2, and I am inside my pages folder. You can see it over here. It's kind of hard to see. It's rather small, but it says desktop root folder /pages /page 2. So page 2 is inside pages, but I want to go back one level to the root folder to find index. So same syntax as before. So href equals, that's where my value is going to go, and down here I'm going to close my anchor tag. So let's do it the long way. Okay, I am on page 2. How do I get out of here? I have to go up one level. So on the Mac, I can simply command click on the folder name up here and see the hierarchy of files. Okay, you can also switch views and take a look at this sort of view over here. I've got page 2, which is inside pages, but I need to get out of here to be able to go there. So I need to go up one level, so leaving here to be able to go there. That is, once again, ... So get out of pages. I'll just go back to this view. It's a bit easier to understand. So I'm inside this file, okay? I'm inside, or page2.html is inside the browser. It is located in the pages folder over here. I want to go up one level, ... Then I want to go to my index page. Okay, so all I have to do is go up one and find index. Over here, up one, so ... index.html. Now remember your syntax. You have the anchor tag, you have the href attribute, you have its value inside quotation marks, the pictures, the clickable picture inside the anchor, and I close the anchor tag over here. Save that, go back to my browser, refresh over here. I can now see my cursor changing when I hover over the picture. I click and I go to my first page. Click on the picture there, go back to my second page. So let's just push the concept one level higher. Okay, so I am going to create a subfolder inside pages. So I'm going to call this one Europe. Okay. And I'm going to come back here. I'm going to create a new page. I am once again going to copy all my template code, put it over here, get rid of the link that's there because I don't need it yet. And I am going to save this as my page 3. So pages, Europe, page3.html. I'm just going to simply call this page 3 and page 3 over here, so it's obvious when we start navigating on what page we are. So once again, my job is to put a picture on this page. Same syntax, image, source equals something, slash. So right now I just have to figure out what the path to my picture is. The only thing that's more complex is that my page 3 is actually quite further down than my other pages. Index is at root, page 2 is inside pages, but page 3 is inside Europe. So how do I get out? So let's keep on doing. Always the same thing. If you can't imagine it, at least go to your file inside either Windows Explorer, the Mac Finder, whatever. But you go there and you navigate. So I'm on page 3. Page 3 is in Europe. I need to go back at least one level to pages. Oops, that was one ... So ... But I'm still not at root. I can't find my images folder. Go back up one again. There's images, so ... again. Go inside images, I have to double click, so images over here. And then I have to go into Europe, and then that's where lakecomo.jpg is. Save that. Go back, let's say, over here. And I'll just quickly jump up to my root folder, go into pages, go into Europe. Here's my page 3. Open that up in Firefox. There's my page 3. It's working perfectly okay. It's the same picture right now as as my page 2, but it says page 3 up here, so I know for sure that it works. So let's just finish off by being able to link that picture. So same idea as before. We are going to put an anchor tag with the hypertext reference attribute, and I'm going to close that down here. So I want, for example, to link my page 3 to my page 2. Taking a look at my hierarchy on the folder, okay, if I'm over here, oops, wrong thing. Don't double click too quickly. I'm going to be inside my Europe folder over here. Okay, I'm on page 3. How do I get to page 2? I have to go back up one level, and page 2 is right there. Page 2 and the Europe folder are side by side. So back here, I need to leave my Europe folder, .. and there I will immediately find my page 2, page2.html. So right then and there, that should be everything that I need. If I go back to my web browser, I'm on page 3, I can refresh, I move over here, it becomes something that I can use. Boom, I go to my page 2, I can confirm over here, it says page2.html. My title shows up in the tab. It also shows up at the top of the window. I am literally now able to go from my first page to my second page, and if I had built a link to go to my page 3, I'd be able to navigate to my page 3 there. So the only thing that we have to add to this is the idea of being able to link to your Cascading Style Sheets file. So I will not do it on every page, I'll only do it on index, but the concept is basically the same thing. There's 3 types of CSS files. You can have your Cascading Style Sheet rules written in an external file, which is what we're about to do, and it is by far the best way to do it. With one external Cascading Style Sheets file, you can control an entire website. So you decide, for example, to change the text color from blue to gray. You do it in one file. That's one line of code. You save it. Can have a website with 10,000 pages, they all change instantaneously. The other types of CSS would be either written up here in the head. So for example, you would type your CSS rules inside a style tag, so something like this. So style type equals text/CSS. And as usual, you have to close whatever you open. Now, this type over here works perfectly fine. Problem is that it's inside your file. So whatever you wrote there, you would have to copy and put it in your other pages as well. It's a lot of work. It works perfectly okay, but why give yourself much more work? It's much easier to just write the rules in one place and have all the pages linking to it. And that is obviously the most important word, linking to it. So if I go back to my template, and I'll just copy this over here, and I'll bring it back to index, just as we are creating links down here, it's possible in the head of the file to create a link between your HTML file and tell it, go get a Cascading Style Sheets file. So taking a look at the syntax, it's the link tag, which is new. The rel, or relationship attribute, defines the relationship as the file that we are linking to is a style sheet. So it is essentially the instructions on how to decorate the page. The style sheet is actually a text file containing Cascading Style Sheets. href, so same thing as what we have down here. href is go into a CSS folder and find a file called style.css. Now, I didn't even create that file yet, so I'll go new. And I won't even write anything. I will simply go save as. I will go to my root folder, inside CSS. and I will call it style.css. Now, taking a look at my, my root folder, I now have a style.css file inside my CSS folder, and my index and all my pages are still there. So that's all good. So leaving my index file, okay, imagine that the browser is reading this page. It starts reading the code. It goes, okay, this is HTML. Okay, the HTML is now starting. Oops, instructions for the browser over here. This page is called Understanding Paths, and oops, there's a link. So your browser goes, oh, okay, I got some work to do. I link to this, so where do I go get this style sheet? The browser calls up style.css from the CSS folder, downloads it to the browser, and whatever rules are going to be inside that document are going to be applied to, let's say, the tags or whatever content I have in the body. Now, CSS, I'll have to explain in another screencast, but the basic idea is you can say for this particular tag, in our case h1, and we put the rule in curly brackets. So very, very simple CSS. I'm going to say the color of the text is red. So notice that it is tag, curly brackets, a cascading style sheet rule, and the value for that, that rule. So H1s will now be red. If I go back to my browser and I go back to my, my first page, okay, and I refresh, oops, obviously I must have a problem. Did I save that properly? Oh, index is not saved. Save that, go back over here, refresh, and there is my red H2. So that's the beginning of cascading style sheets. But the most important thing is that your path works properly. So if I take this link, which works fine on index, and I copy that, and I bring it into page 2, and I paste it in exactly the same location over here, and I save that, and I go to my page 2, so I'll click on the picture over here. I am now in page 2. I can tell over there. And even if I refresh, my H1's not changing color. And why is that? Once again, you can always go take a look inside the source or view source. I've got an H1 over here. Let's do that. View page source. Okay. Link, style sheet, da-da-da-da. Click on this over here. Remember, I'm on page 2. Can't find it. That's why it's not working. Okay. Take a look at the error message. It's saying root folder, pages, CSS, style.css. So the browser is looking for the cascading style sheet folder inside pages. It's not inside pages. Pages and CSS are side by side. So what's missing is telling the browser, get out of pages to be able to find your CSS folder. Go to my page 2, CSS, okay? Remember that page 2 is inside pages. So we are telling it here, okay, from the location where you are, find CSS folder and go into it. We're inside pages. That's why the error says pages /CSS and then style.css. It is not inside pages. So we have to back out of the pages folder and then go into CSS and find the file. Save that, come over here, refresh. That works perfectly okay. Now, let me close a couple of these. I'm starting to have too many of them. Okay. Go back over here and I will open up my page 3 in Firefox. Page 3 is over here. Remember, I didn't edit page 3 yet. There is no link to my CSS yet. So once again, I can put the link in, come back over here, refresh, doesn't work. Take a look at the page source, come over here, link to it, file not found. So I know what the problem is. If I'm unsure as to how to do it, remember, go back to your desktop, open up the root folder, and navigate from your page. I'm on page 3. // don't find any CSS folder here. // twice, I go to root. That's perfect. So come back here. // and then over here go into CSS and find style.css. So // twice, find that folder, go into it, find the style.css file. So save this, go back to my browser, refresh, and there you go. That H1 tag is now red. So the whole idea is whether you are linking to a picture, linking to a file such as an HTML file, linking to other types of files, could be cascading style sheets, JavaScript, something like that. The entire basis of web design is figuring out if you can go in or out. So as you give the names of the folders and subfolders, you are going in, and when you need to back out, you have to use .. So that's it, my friends. That is navigating inside your root folder. Be tidy, keep things nice and clean, make it easy to understand. You're the boss, you code it, you make sure that it's nice and clean, and follow the path. So .. to back up, and just name the folders to go in. That's it, folks. Hope you enjoyed it, and come back and follow the next series, and we'll get through this whole web design thing together. Thanks for watching.